crisscross applesauce means that rigid, sit still, raise your hands, uh, um, you know, think inside the box, don't think outside the box.
Yeah.
What I tell you, I'm the adult. What I tell you is what is right, and you cannot challenge it. I'm the only route to your success. If you don't do this, then you don't succeed, right?
Yeah.
And so the rules, so we have designed those classrooms also like, our criminal justice system. The rules are designed to punish rather than to discipline. Right?
This is, don't mind me, I just have ADHD. But let's be real. ADHD doesn't just mean forgetfulness or fidgeting. It's meant being labeled, masking, performing just to survive in a system that wasn't designed with us in mind. The podcast isn't about fixing you. It's about unlearning the shame you were handed down. Here we talk about ADHD, trauma, addiction, depression, healing, identity. All the messy things that make us human in our life and work. And we do it with fierce kindness. I'm Ron Sowers, your ADHD guy. And if you've ever felt like you had to earn your worth, if you ever struggled to slow down, speak up, or show up without a mask, welcome. You're not too much. You were never broken. And now you're waking up. Let's remember who we are together. Hey, my good friends. Ron here. Today's episode is one of those conversations that sticks with you. It's personal, it's powerful, and it just might change the way you see ADHD in education forever. I'm joined by Dr. Stanley Ekiyor, a former banker turned educator and behavioral analyst, whose life was changed by one day as a substitute teacher. That one day, it led to his life's calling and to a deeper understanding of what's really going on in classrooms with kids who learn differently. We talk about ADHD, behavior, neurodiversity, and what it takes to rewire a school system that sees the strengths in every student. You hear how tragedy sparks transformation, why traditional classrooms often feel like courtrooms for kids with ADHD, and what we can do right now to make things better. And trust me, you're going to want to listen to this all the way through, because this episode doesn't just name the problem, it shows us the way forward. Plus, I got a special surprise at the end just for you. Let's get into it. So, Dr. Stanley, I can call you Stan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a lot of letters to your name.
I
So
know.
what got you interested in ADHD in particular?
Yeah. First of all, thank you, Ron, for having me. It's an honor being on the show. Any opportunity we have to spread the word, to create awareness, I'm all for it.
Yeah,
It's funny. I really, my career at the beginning had nothing to do with education, not to talk about ADHD.
yeah,
I was initially in the financial industry, right?
okay.
And working with a bank. And I remember this day, my secretary walked into the office and said, she brought some stuff, and I was sitting actually doing nothing. And she was like, um, I have some stuff for you. Yes. So I opened my big mouth and I said, yeah. I know, same stuff, say, and she was like, what do you mean same stuff? There's a lot of, I say, yes, I'm so used to it that, it's robotic and it's boring now. And
Hmm.
she now said, what? Boring? you know what? You need to go to the city school district to sub. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what? What does that even mean? What sub how? What does that? She said, no, you're not going to do that. But she set up something that defined my path. And I actually went home and I was discussing with a cousin of mine, a cousin-in-law, and she said, yeah, if you want to sub, this is what it takes and this is what it means. You have so many challenging kids, and so it's a struggle. So probably that's what she meant. So I said,
Yeah.
okay, I'll try.
Nice.
I went through the process, got in, and the first day I was called, I went to an high school and all dressed like a banker. When I walked into the office, all attention was focused on me, right?
Hmm.
The secretary stopped what she was doing. Oh, welcome, sir. How can I help you? And I said, I'm here to solve. And I think as soon as she heard my accent, realized that I was dressed, she became uncomfortable. So she called the principal, and the principal came out and said, you know what? Why not? Uh, what we'll do is you go to the kindergarten classroom. This classroom that you picked is so challenging and difficult, and so we will, we'll switch and send a seasoned teacher in there. So I'm like, is that what you do to all subs that come in? She said,
Yeah.
no. You see, the way you dress, the kids are very disrespectful. They might not. So I said, so do you have a code for
Hmm.
those that will go into that classroom, dressing code? She said, no, 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 no. So she said, if you want to go, yeah, you can go, but I'll give you the list of kids you have to watch out for. The security guy will sit in front of the classroom. And I asked her again, I said, is that what you do for everybody? She said, no, these kids are out. I said, okay. Now, if a seasoned teacher is going into that classroom,
Hmm.
what will that seasoned teacher do if there is a crisis? She said the seasoned teacher will dial zero. So I said, then I can dial zero. And guess what? I'm a fast runner. If it gets really terrible, I'll run and get to the office. So she said, okay. She brought the list. I said, nope, I don't want any of that. So I walked into this classroom. She was right. It was quite challenging. The kids were, as soon as I opened my mouth, oh, Kentakunte from Africa. Wow.
Wow.
They just went on and on. And one kid now said, ah, this guy, you think we don't have trees here? Monkeys can't jump around here. There are no trees. So I turned to him. I don't know how that happened, but I turned to him and I said, it's so interesting that you know so much about Africa. You must be a very smart guy to know that there are trees
Hmm.
in Africa, there are monkeys in Africa, people jump on trees and all that. So as I was talking to him, one of the other kids, a young lady now said, Mister, you mean people live on trees in Africa? I say it depends on how you define that. Have you heard about tree houses?
Yeah.
Luckily for me, another kid in the classroom said, yeah, 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 yeah. My dad has one, in our backyard in a tree, and he described it. And I said, how do you spend time there? He said, yeah, it's so cool. I go up there and you can see the whole neighborhood. Then I said, imagine being in a space where you have wild animals, roaming around and all that. Maybe, a safari, and you are in a
Hmm.
tree house watching them. Very safe. How would that? And he said, oh, that would be cool.
Yeah.
But I found out with just that little distraction, I got the class. So I said, you know what? How many of you want to go to Africa and watch the safari? The whole class, half of the class said, how do we do it? How do you know? Yes, we would love to. So I said, okay. There was a small computer in front of the classroom,
Yeah.
and I brought it up and I Googled. Then it wasn't Google, it was Yahoo search. I did that and I said six beautiful cities in Africa. The list pictures came up, pictures of six beautiful cities. And I said, six beat down neighborhoods. in Monroe County. That is where I live, right? In the US. So these 6 pictures came. So I said, okay, I dropped $5 on the table and I said, any person that will get this right, where these pictures are from, right, this $5, the person will take it. And of course, that moved my whole class to the computer. So I started showing them. I showed them the first 5 pictures. All the first 6 pictures, those 6 pictures they described as US, California, Europe, London, and all that. Then when I got to the beat down neighborhoods in Monroe County, New York State, guess what? Where they called? All the pictures were in Africa, right?
Yeah.
So I understood right away what was going on. It wasn't kids being disrespectful. It was more of them not knowing, not aware, what they've been fed, what they've seen is what they were expressing, right? And so that activity and me trying to give them information, and I showed a safari in Africa, tried to educate them about, even when I said animals roam around, you have safaris where they do, people live, and there are poor people, there are rich people. I did not know when the bell rang for the students to leave, and guess what? Nobody was ready to leave when it was time to leave. None of those kids left that classroom until that bell. And then the principal came and said, your bosses, you miss your bosses. So they started leaving, and most of them were saying, Mister, will you come back again? Mister, will you come? I said, well, we'll see. They left, except one person. The guy that called me all those, you can imagine, on names I can't even repeat. He now said, Mister, you're not a teacher. I'm like, why? He said, you know what? You're from the FBI. And I'm like, what do you mean? What's FBI? Because I couldn't link it. He said, yeah, look at how dressed you are. They sent you here to come and, spy on us. And I'm like, why would you think that? He said, yeah, that's what they do. Look at you putting on black and black, a white shirt, and that's what you guys do, right? You're not a teacher. So I said, let's have a conversation. But let me walk you to your boss because you will run late. He said, no, I'm a worker. So I started talking to him. He said, one, black males don't teach. They are either custodians or they are security. And I'm like, no. What do you mean by that? He said, let's move around this building. There's no black teacher, no black male teacher. So they don't do that. And I'm like, wow. I said, that's interesting. Maybe, they are in other schools, not here. He said, no, I hardly have seen a male teacher. I said, well, I am truly not a teacher. This is what I do. And he said, yeah, I knew it. You're not a teacher. I said, but you can be a teacher. If you think that's a concern, why are you not working towards that rather than what you did? He said, yeah, I'm sorry. At times I do stuff like that. I'm bad. There's evil in my head, so I say nasty stuff. And he now asked me, and I said, oh, that's okay, that's okay. As he was walking, he now asked me, he said, will you come back tomorrow? I'm like, why? Why would I come to receive the same stuff from you? He said, yeah, I'm sorry, like I said, I want you to come back. You're the first teacher that did not kick me out of the classroom. You're the first teacher the first person that did something that made me want to be in the classroom.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'll think about that, but you think about becoming a teacher. If you promise me you're going to become a teacher, I'll think about coming back the next day. Anyway, to cut this long story short, we now had a bond.
Yeah.
And
Powerful.
I found out this kid had a lot of issues in school, a lot of issues. And so somehow I became his mentor because the principal wanted me. Anytime he has issues, they want me to talk to him, call me, and I'll talk to him. Now, every time I helped this kid to understand why he should not do what he was doing, because I was thinking behavior. I was thinking behavior. Even though I've heard about ADHD as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I've heard all the definitions. I didn't know one was standing in front of me. I
Yeah.
was still looking at it as inappropriate behavior until that kid got killed on the streets
Wow.
in a gang-related issue that I went back to look at his cue. When I looked at his cue was this large. What I mean, the cue where they keep records then.
Yeah.
I now buried in that cue, I saw a diagnosis for ADHD.
Wow.
I wanted to know what that truly meant. What was I missing? What's this ADHD? What does it look like? Luckily for me, like, they say when it rains, it pours. I saw a newsletter, one that showcased a renowned ADHD research and expert, Dr. Ned Holloway. And he had or has ADHD and dyslexia, right? But he went through there and talked about how teachers helped him to become what he was. And there was something he said that caught my attention. He
Hmm.
said he would normally describe to kids that their brains are like the Ferrari engine. The only problem they have, especially kids with ADHD, is that they have a bicycle brake.
Yeah.
And that bicycle brake can be fixed. A Ferrari is a winner every day, it's a champion every day. So if
Yeah.
you can fix that brake, you will become a champion and a winner. And that led to my passion and research and involvement in ADHD.
No, that's a powerful story, and thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That showed a lot of like curiosity and bravery, courage, like on yours part, and like humility to come in and so like where did those like traits come from? Like where you went into this classroom with, these kids calling you names and where did that that instinct to just really question those things and with like curiosity instead of hostility?
Yeah, I've always believed growing up the way I was brought up uh, that, you know, people have different ways of looking at things. Even when you have a twin,
Hmm.
they see things differently. And most times you're shaped by your experiences, education, and so many things, right? So listen to the message
Yeah.
rather than the noise. I've always had that philosophy, and I've always believed that there's nobody out there that doesn't have a strength.
Yeah.
And the only way you can support people, or you can be there, or you can learn
Yeah.
is by listening. And I am a very, very curious being. If I see something that looks different, I want to know why and how. I've traveled far and wide. I've met different people. I've seen different strengths. And I know that everybody brings something to the table and you get better by what you learn. So that has always shaped me. So I think when I walked into that classroom, they were seeing challenges. I was seeing opportunities. And
Mhm.
I rationalized what the kids were doing at
Yeah.
that time. I knew I had to take control of that classroom. If I had followed that kid, that first distraction, guess what? I would have found myself on a track that I wasn't familiar with.
Yeah.
So I had to bring that kid to a track that I was the expert, and that track was getting to kindle their interest. And as soon as I got their interest to think about something they wanted to know and something that I know so much about and can talk with facts to support it, I
That's
had my
powerful.
class under control. So I think I don't know how to say it. I'm also the first child of my parents, and you're trained to always realize that you're the leader. Every error you make, the others will make the same errors, and so my names reflect that leadership role. So probably all those things have made me curiosity,
Yeah.
empathy, knowing that every noise has a message and focusing on the message, I think helped me in that situation.
Yeah, especially how you reacted to the first kid. But like and I'm sorry that you went through that,
Oh,
horrible experience with
yeah.
that kid got dying. I'm sure that
Yes.
left an impact on you.
Mhm.
But it led to other things.
Yes.
Um, and you talked about the strengths, and I'm a huge proponent of, strength based interactions within any type of community, like pointing out, like, and actually looking for the
Mhm.
strengths that are showing up, even in, a disruptive environment. And you pointed out that fact that, you know, most people saw that as a challenge and you saw it as an opportunity. It's about flipping that around. So you are a doctor of education. Like
Mhm.
I've never heard of.
Mhm.
That's a cool like little namesake. Well, how did that come about, and how does that transfer into like your mission with ADHD?
Great question. Thank you very much. You know,
Thank you.
it goes back to curiosity. When I switched from banking to teaching, and I did that, which was which was costly because in the financial industry, at least I was doing well. But when I switched over, teachers are, that it's obvious they are the least paid. My
Yeah,
my my family
it's a
did
crime.
not understand why I did that, but I think I found a passion. I found something I had
Yeah.
never ever um, and I discovered, let me put it this way, I discovered my existential why. For the first time after that experience in that classroom, I came home and I slept like a baby.
Hmm.
That has never happened. And that taught me something that that is a part I needed to explore. So I explored it. I had to do a master's again in education to be able to fit into that. And my master's, I got certified, dual certification, general education and special education, right, in New York
Hmm.
State. And now I started as a special ed teacher. And it was with kids that I needed to understand. It was with kids that,
Hmm.
because of what I came in with, I had to give them a chance to prove to me that they cannot rather than assuming they can. I mean, that they cannot rather than assuming that they cannot, right?
Yeah.
So when I got into the classroom, the more behavior, the more challenges, the more I needed to equip myself. Because for you to help kids, at one point, your well runs dry. So you
Yeah.
need training and experience to understand and get them. And I got into behavior analysis. I got interested in it because it was talking about, even though I was a trained uh, 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 TCI, it's a therapeutic crisis intervention uh,
Hmm.
uh, trainer, but something was missing. something was missing. And that thing was the teachable part. And most of the kids I was confronting and every day of my life were kids that had something buried inside of them
Yeah.
that they just needed something to get them to feel that they are being seen.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, that somebody is there to support them, to make them see their potentials. And boom, things start coming out. And the more the kids were challenging me, the more I could learn from these kids, and I learned a lot from them, the more I wanted to know why
Yeah.
we still classify kids and put kids on medication and say, that's it.
Yeah.
They are on medication now and all is over, rather than trying to figure out how we can teach them, even if they are on medication. Now, what next? How can you teach them strategies to help them succeed, right? So that led me into that, and ABA was a good eye opener. Modification of behavior, understanding what reinforcement means and how to use it properly, right? Not bribe, but how to reinforce, because everything we do in life is reinforced in one way or the other, and that reinforcement is what makes us to repeat it, right?
Yeah.
And so understanding those principles and how to teach behavior, looking at behavior as everything we do rather than just inappropriate behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Teaching appropriate behavior helps to reduce inappropriate behavior. Now, if you have that mindset, chances are you want to know the root, what you're teaching. You need to
Mm.
know the problem before you can teach it, right? And
Yeah.
so going to the root of the problem now helps you to profile strategies that can address that, right?
Yeah.
And when I did that, I was at that level effective, but something was still missing. I needed a key.
Mm.
That key was in research. I investigated. I wanted, I was using other people's research. There were some I questioned in my at my level, but I didn't know what research really meant in its true sense.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go and get to my the terminal degree in education, which actually exposed me, to the research tools. And I went to a university that was really great because of the way they organized their doctorate program, which was a
Yeah.
co-op system that brought different people, into that program. And also, we had the opportunity of having professionals from the real world and our professors in school co-teaching.
Yeah.
So that gave me, and that my curiosity led me to today. Some people say, oh, you're a doctor, you must know everything. And I say, no, knowledge is infinite. What I know is just like a grain of sand, because, knowledge is, I know what I know. But that opportunity to do my doctorate gave me a key, and that key is called research. So my curiosity, I
Yeah.
can I can take care of that by actually looking for facts. I can hear something in TikTok or anywhere, and I know how to research if there are facts supporting it. So
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it. And I think that's why I went for it. And that's what I have now. So I can talk facts rather than speculation.
Exactly. And those facts are super important, and the research is huge, like knowing what to look for,
Mhm,
what sources are accurate.
mhm,
And like with a lot of ADHD research, it's scattered all
mhm,
over the place. And
mhm,
you've got to kind of dig deep
mhm.
to get to the real, like you call it, like the root of the
Yes.
behavioral problem. And it keeps coming up a lot, and we talked a lot about, those strategies when I was on your show.
Mhm,
And, the thing with the school structure, and like you said, they're holding on to something deep, which I believe is trauma, this deep wound of trauma, and you're in an environment that doesn't allow for creativity, for a lot of running around, a lot of like open space that kids need. Just a normal kid, any kid needs, like, and they're expected to just sit in
Mhm,
classes for 6 to 8 hours and just be, robots. And for what? That takes a lot of like their humanity away, a lot of the creativity that can spark innovation further
mhm,
on in businesses. And
mhm,
um it's incredible, like, that this is done in that way. And you talked about the drugs as well, and that's just an oversimplification of a complex problem, and that's
mhm,
it. Like, instead of changing the system, they just want to modify the kid.
mhm,
So what are some of the things that you have done to like incorporate like behavior or changing the systems? Because you talked about it talks about multi-tiered systems of
mhm,
support.
mhm. Thank you. That's a great question. I'll tell you this, Ron.
Thank you.
The only thing that has refused to change with technology, with all the changes, we are still where we started, is education.
Yeah.
And I say that because you look at a typical school. When I was in kindergarten, people use this word, applesauce. I mean, how do you say, crisscross applesauce. Discipline means you teach, you are helping somebody to understand something they
Hmm.
don't understand. So, to help them understand what they don't understand, you do things that can make them understand the flaws of what they did and how not to do it again and what to do instead,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Discipline.
But punishment is personal. It's, I'm showing you its power. I'm
Yeah.
showing you that I have the power to do this and I will do it. And whenever you repeat that behavior, this is what I'm going to do.
Hmm.
And so you walk into a typical classroom and you see the rules. Sit still, raise your hands if you want to ask a question, wait your turn. Um, you know, let's take only those three, for instance. Now, juxtapose that, or what I mean by juxtapose, put it side by side with the
Hmm.
characteristics of ADHD.
Yeah. That's
Telling an ADHD kid to sit still for 45 minutes.
yeah.
Telling an ADHD kid to sit still for something they are not interested in and they can't even comprehend why they are doing it. Telling an ADHD kid to take turns, wait your turn, don't interrupt. Telling an ADHD kid to sit and be focused for 45 minutes.
Yeah. On one thing.
That's excluding. That's right. Your rules have excluded that kid. So I'll tell you what I did and something that I think worked. I don't design the backs before I know the size of the shoe.
Hmm.
And what that means is I get to know my kids first. I
Yeah.
get to look at my list. I get to reach out to the family. I get to build that relationship, knowing where they are coming from, knowing what their challenges are, giving their parents an opportunity to tell me what worked the past year and what their expectations are today, and sitting down with my kids, and you call it restorative justice, right?
Hmm.
Sitting down with them in a circle and saying, these are my expectations. What are yours?
Mm. Interesting.
This is how you can meet my expectations. Can you? If not, what are the best ways you can meet my expectation?
Yeah.
These are your expectations. I respect them. But this is the way I can meet these expectations in this environment because these are the tools I have to be able to meet your expectations. So we find a balance first. Mr. I don't like people screaming at me. Okay. Mister, I can't sit still for, okay. See, now I get to know my students. And now with that, I
Yeah.
create a box that can include everybody. Their culture. What are their culture? What do they believe in? What music do they like? Do they like sitting by the window? Will that be distractive? Do they like sitting close to the teacher because they are hard on hearing? Do they want, so many factors? Then we design our expectations based on that. Then secondly, I have somewhere, I had to switch what people call time out corner and all that. I switched it to reflective corner. Now, my reflective corner is designed in such a way that, one, in the name, we get kids to understand what it means to reflect before you act, right?
Yeah.
So now if I have an ADHD kid, of course, I have to give that kid strategies to help that kid think. Maybe the counting, take a deep breath, these little things, because I know the kid. I know what the kid is, the challenges the kid is going through. So now when I say, can you go to the reflective center for 5 minutes? And I set my timer for 5 minutes. And that kid goes there, and in that center, there are things that that kid can still do. And at the same time, the kid is in my classroom, doesn't miss a whole word while I'm talking, might miss 2 letters. And at times from that reflective corner, they can ask questions, right? So I keep the kids in the classroom. I have this communication with parents. I give parents opportunity to come to my classroom and do active or showcase their cultural beliefs and things that kids are interested in. We get kids every morning to sit down in a circle and we talk freely. We don't force anybody. We talk freely. It's part of restorative practice where the circle, where we use the talking stick and all that. That gives kids wait time. It helps them to understand when to talk, and they begin to build those strategies. They begin to understand. It takes time, but slowly they begin to understand the process, and they begin to learn strategies that can help them do that. Now, my instruction, the content. When I use instruction for me means the content, behavior, and cell. So, academics, how can I make academics interesting for my kids to want to learn? That's a strategy. How can I reinforce them if they are learning? What do I do to make them know that they are in the right path? Now, the next one is for them to know and for me to reinforce them. You see, I just talked about behavior. Now, for my kids to be ready, they have to want to be in the classroom. If there's anything bothering them, if there's something that just happened in the neighborhood that they are thinking about, if they were forced out of the house because they slept so late and so, it was morning and now they are not in a good place, right? We can talk about that and figure out how to help them focus on what we want to do. Now, what did I just do? I just talked about cell, the social emotional piece of it. If it is something that is traumatic, I have to figure out from the building what tools are there to support this kid. So that tier 1 system, you talked about the MTSS, multi-tier system of support. That tier 1 system I'm describing to you is universal. The whole classroom, everybody benefits from it. It's rigorous instruction. That you are classified doesn't mean I don't expose you to rigorous instruction. What it means is that you need support, and I provide the support for you so that I can expose you to that instruction, because that instruction is what helps you to pass exams and to even survive in real society, right? So You cannot exclude that from tier one. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if in the process of doing that, I'm gathering my data, which is very important, from formative assessments, you name it, right? And I'm beginning to figure out that there's a kid struggling, which means what I am doing, see, what I am doing, not what the kid is doing.
Mm-hmm.
What I am doing as a teacher is not working. Even if it's working for 99% of my classroom, that 1% becomes my challenge.
Yeah.
That 1%, why will that 1% not figure out what's going on? Now, that kind of reflective thinking helps me to go to the root of why that kid is not doing it and try to embed that in my classroom. And most of these strategies work for everybody. So now, if we find out there are some that I cannot, that is beyond my knowledge,
Yeah.
then tier two comes in, where the team of experts in the building now looks at the situation and say, yeah, you've done all this, Dr. Ekiyor. Now, this is what we are seeing from the data. Attendance is affecting this kid, and this kid already has ADHD or autism and cannot respond in this way. Then they help at that level to bring up strategies. Do we have to now teach these kids in small group settings, 4 to 5 kids intervention? Now, that becomes a strategy at tier two. If, for instance, still there is one kid, and it happens most times, that still has struggles that need intensive, individualized plan to help that kid, then tier three, we'll go to tier three and we individualize things, strategies that can help that kid and excel. Now, reinforcement is very important in all this process. Kids need to know they are doing the right thing. They need to be told what they are doing and why it's important.
Yeah.
Right? And if you know that, and those were the things that really helped me, different ways of teaching. I don't just talk. I give kids the opportunity to interact. I use video clips to have them to talk, projects. I give them opportunity to write about things they want to talk about, right? If I'm looking for writing, what do I care? I want them to talk about things there so that they can write and defend those things. And so you begin to bring their strengths, encourage them, and build their self-esteem and confidence.
Yeah.
To make them want to do stuff, So those were the things. And I was very also big on advocacy, giving my kids the opportunity to challenge what they are not comfortable with. Speak it out so that we can address it. Because behavior is communication. They will act out if they can speak it out, right? So I give them the opportunity to speak it out. Let's talk about it. And guess what? You see that kid, those kids that I told you the story that led me to a career that I'm so proud of, that I will do over and over if I have the opportunity, if there's a second life. Those kids, right, were thinking outside the box. When you talk about critical thinking is thinking outside the box. Critical questioning is questioning outside the box. So they will question you in ways that might challenge you, right? Somebody using the F word or B word on you at times can be very, very offensive, right? But you need to understand why. If you understand why, chances are you can help them change and have the appropriate way to talk to you, right? So it's just having a structure that takes the child into consideration, that takes the family into consideration, that is culturally sensitive, that is trauma sensitive, that understands that it's not about you, the educator. It's about the kid. If the kid is not getting it, then you have to adjust to make sure that kid fits in.
Yeah, that's huge, and I'm definitely learning a lot. I liked a lot of the things that you said, especially the multi-tiered system. Um, and that's huge. You got to be able to adapt and
Mm-hmm,
give these kids the ability to open up. And
mm-hmm,
that's one thing that I know I wasn't taught a lot.
mm-hmm,
And in the school systems when I was growing up is like that self-advocacy,
mm-hmm,
being able to, like it's always on the other end where
mm-hmm.
it's like it's whatever I say. If you don't get what I say, there's something wrong with you, and
Yeah,
you're gonna fail in life.
yeah.
So it that eats away at a kid's self-esteem and
Mm-hmm,
self-image
mm-hmm,
when they can't get those systems. So it's a beautiful, and I liked how you said you talk to the family as well,
mm-hmm,
because like that's oftentimes a missing piece in
mm-hmm.
like the whole picture, because you can talk to the kid, but the kid is only going to come from their perspective. They
Yes,
don't see everything that's going
yes.
on
Mm-hmm,
around them and
mm-hmm,
how they are in these situations. So
mm-hmm.
the parents do know that stuff,
Yes.
if they're paying attention in their life, and
Mm-hmm,
and and that's huge. So what's one thing that you've noticed in the school system, that like rules or regulations or systems that just didn't make sense? What was the one thing that really stood out to you?
I think I know I've touched on it a little bit, is expecting kids to sit still
Yeah, yeah,
for 30 to 45 minutes. Even the robots in factories these days move. Robots don't just sit still. So how can you expect as adults? Guess what? If you're sitting, you go to a training, you can sit for so long before you start moving and becoming restless, right? So we adjust those training for adults to take into consideration that, the attention span. At one point, you have to do activities, you have to move around, you have to do those things. So those are things we have to bring into our classroom, not because the kids have ADHD, not because they have autism, not
hmm
because, no, because it's good teaching practice, right?
yeah,
It's good teaching practice and interest. If you are not interested in something, I
yeah,
don't care what the person is saying. You will be polite to listen to the person because that's what we've been trained to do. But you will, at the end of that conversation, you will like say, I don't even know what he's talking about. Why? Because you're not interested, right? So how can we bring interest into school? Now, school systems have to change from the top. I did my research on, and the topic was, my doctoral research was on leadership practices that support uh, students diagnosed with ADHD, middle and high school students diagnosed with ADHD. And guess what? I did a qualitative research, which means it was more of lived experiences because I didn't want that quantitative numbers. I wanted people to express their lived experiences. And most
yeah,
of the leaders I spoke to were so honest. They said they don't know what, they know the definition of ADHD, like I knew, but they don't know what strategies and how it worked. And
yeah,
there was one that even said he was really surprised in a meeting where they were talking about a child having ADHD, and he didn't know what they were talking about because, of course, he has the experts working for him. And that's what leaders do, though. You hire people who can do the right thing, right? I give that to them. But if you don't know the right thing, most times,
yeah,
challenges are you don't know what those people are doing. And most of these leaders were so honest. They said, there's no real training in their own process that gives them knowledge, in-depth knowledge on understanding neurodiverse learners. So, you know, uh, they plan, they are in charge of the policies, they are in charge of allocating resources. So they allocate it based on what they think is right. So how can we begin to go back and say, this neurodiversity is nothing strange. It's nothing to be embarrassed. There are so many
yeah.
successful, famous people out there
Oh yeah,
that are neurodiverse. How can we be inclusive? How can we understand and bring our schools up to standard? Be flexible. You have structures. Structures are about plans. When it's rigid, it's a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And plans are useless because they are there. Planning is flexible, is dynamic. That's what schools should shift from the mindset of I have a plan, we have planned it, this is how it's going to work, to we are planning. It's a continuous process. We look at the data, we adjust. It's not working. Why is it not working? We figure out why. We get to the root of it. We work with parents because they are the first teachers and they know what they are talking about. Yeah, we are the experts in instruction, but we cannot do that job effectively if we don't understand where the challenges are coming from. Right?
Yeah. So what are some of the ways that really help, like that you've seen help like educators be able to adapt those strategies?
First and foremost is awareness.
Yeah.
You need to know. As soon as you know, as soon as you understand it and shift from misbehavior to characteristics. Naturally, as a human being, empathy comes in. Because when you know, you want to do better. When you know that the kid interrupting you is not doing it out of disrespect, is doing it because they cannot help it, then chances are you don't take offense to it because you understand, you know it, right? When you are aware, you know that telling an ADHD kid to sit still and do the things we are still doing in classroom is like telling somebody who has allergies not to sneeze.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. So what do we say? We tell them you sneeze, we teach them strategies of sneezing because we know they are definitely going to sneeze. So I think awareness helps educators to understand that this kid is going to interrupt me. This kid is going to talk. This kid is going to move. How can I embed movement into my teaching practices? How can I give this kid leadership role in the classroom to make this kid talk? How can I give this kid opportunity, strategies, signals to help this kid know that, hold it a little bit, I will get to you. So awareness is big. Then number two, as educators, you cannot stop learning. If you get to the point where you feel like you know it all, you're dead. You should not be living any longer. So going out to figure out what's going on, knowing more research that is coming out. There are great research articles out there. If you're not good at, going after the articles, you can listen to renowned ADHD specialists like Russell Barkley, Ned Holloway, Stephen Farron, Ellen Littman, and Melissa Vosky. These are people I can name so many of. They are there. You don't have to. You Google and state research based. You will see these names. They have books. They have articles. They've done research. And we are trying also, like when you were on my podcast, I am trying to make sure it's not so expert driven. How can we break those facts in simplified languages? How can we tell stories that can bring the abstract to life, right? So if you're one that has struggles with most of, I can't read those research articles, they are so complex, the book is so big and all that. There are podcasts. They're everywhere. Listen to them. My podcast channel on Stitching ADHD Urban Ed Talks with Dr. Stanley Ekiyor, what we do is we bring people who have lived it, different experts, but we make them talk about their experiences, right? Not using acronyms that can confuse people more. Make it real. so that people can begin to touch it. Even those that are educated can begin to
Mm.
feel it. When a kid is always interrupting them and they are telling the kid it's rude to interrupt, at what point do you ask yourself, wait a minute, why will this kid wake up every morning and say, I'm going to interrupt my teacher? Is it possible this kid can't help it? Now, that
Yeah.
is where awareness comes. And you can say, wait a minute, let me figure out this. There are so many kids that are not diagnosed. Research is showing. There are so many kids that are not diagnosed because in some communities, they don't even believe in it, right? But if a kid is showing those characteristics, how can you help that kid function in your classroom? Because our goal is student success. It's understanding, helping them to be successful, not just only in the classroom, in the real world. If we fail, our world is doomed.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't care where you live. You can live in a suburban area and think it won't get to you. Guess what? It will at one point. So if you take care of the fire in your neighbor's house, chances are it won't get to your house. But if you walk into your house and say it's your neighbor's house, you might find out too late it's in your
Yeah.
house, right? So those
No,
are the
that
things
that's
we should
that's
be talking about. Yeah.
that's huge. And like talking about digestible information, like
Mm-hmm.
making the information digestible. But
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, we've run out of time.
Yes.
And I'd love to have you on the podcast again to go in more depth to, because this is definitely just scratching the surface.
Yes.
So, how can the viewers reach out to you and get in contact with you?
Yes, I have a podcast channel that you know about and a YouTube channel too. It's on Stitching, ADHD, Urban Ed Talks with Dr. Stanley Ekiyor. If you search it, it will pop out. We're in virtually all major podcast channels and the YouTube channel where, we talk about things that, uh, will help you know more and give you opportunity if you want to participate. It's open. It's your experience we want to hear. Were you in school? Did you drop out of school? Are you frustrated with school? You can help a kid,
Yeah.
a parent understand why. And we can work together stitching the complexities of ADHD, one kid at a time, and hopefully we can change the system. Also, my email is on stitching ADHD at gmail.com. And you can also go to my website because I do a lot of professional development training. And my website is Waribi, Wariebi Associates
Okay.
dot com, where different trainings that I do, professional learning experiences. uh, um, you know you can, if you want somebody to talk about ADHD, I'm very passionate about it, or
Yeah.
training around that, especially inclusive classrooms.
No,
I
I love your passion, and all those will be in the show notes for the guest. And
yeah.
again, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate, everything that I've definitely learned a lot, and I hope the audiences has well.
Thank you so much for having me. I truly, truly appreciate what you're doing. Let's keep doing it. It's going to take time, but the more it's out there, the better for the kids. Our
Yeah.
experiences can help people change their mindset. The more they know, more informed they are, the better they will do. They can only give what they have, right?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You're definitely, I couldn't have said it better myself. Well, thank you
Mhm.
again for being
You're
here.
welcome. You're welcome.
All
And
right.
thank you for having me.
Woo! What a dynamic conversation. Humongous thanks again to Dr. Stanley Ekiyor for sharing his heart, his wisdom, and the powerful ways he's helping young people develop, not just as students, but as confident, resilient human beings. And hey, If you enjoyed this conversation, do yourself a favor and check out Stan's show, the Unstitching ADHD Urban Ed Talks with Dr. Stanley podcast, where I recently had the honor of being a guest. We flipped the mic, dove into everything from ADHD to connection to leadership. It was real, it was fun, and I think you'll really get something from it. Now, next week, we keep that energy going. I'm sitting down with Jeremy Duran, a dynamic speaker, leadership coach, and podcast host who specializes in helping people grow from great contributors to great managers to transformational leaders. If you've ever felt stuck between doing the work and leading the way, this one's for you. And before you go, if you're on a journey of self-awareness and healing like I am, grab my self-discovery journal. It's filled with prompts and reflection tools to help you reclaim your voice, build confidence, and find clarity in the chaos. You can find it at youradhdguy.com. That's youradhdguy.com. And real quick, before you go, head on over to my brand new TikTok shop because I just dropped a fresh shirt that I'm incredibly excited about. It says, I press towards the goal. It's bold, it's faith forward, it's a daily reminder to keep going. And it's only on flash sale for a limited time. So snag one before the price goes back up. And you can find that at ron.solo1. That's at ron.solo1. Until next time, keep being kind to the parts of you still learning. You're not behind, you're becoming. And as always, subscribe, and may the source be with you.